Well, hello there and welcome back to the Thai Expat Daily Show. I'm your host Kira Mack as always and delighted you've been able to tune in with us again. Now, normally we do the news every second day or so here in Thailand, but I also said that we'd be doing some other kind of stories and having conversations about different things along the way. So as the news is pretty poor and there's not even a top 4 stories for this week, or for today I mean, we're going to talk about, basically the top reasons not to visit Phuket. I see a lot of channels love to talk about all the reasons to visit Phuket or move to Phuket and other such things. And I've been thinking about it because a couple of days ago I was driving around Phuket and I've lived in Phuket approximately, I think about 10 years or so. So I have a fairly good idea of the island. And as I was sitting in traffic, yet again, looking around me, and it just seemed like there was this kind of epiphany, a moment where I just went, God, this place is becoming a cesspit of just lawlessness, traffic jams, corruption. And I just thought to myself, wow, how quickly Phuket has changed. And I think if you go back to before we had the pandemic here in Thailand, I don't think it was as bad as it is now. And I kind of been thinking about that. And then we had, of course, the pandemic. And Phuket was exceptionally quiet. You could go from A to B and you never had any issues. You never had any problems getting parking. You'd never any issues from going, as I said, from A to B as quickly as possible. Now A to B, even if it's a couple of kilometers, takes forever to get there. And I just thought to myself, now that we're finished, the pandemic is kind of over, and Phuket seems to be busier and busier, and yet there's no actual plan for Phuket. There seems to be no design on how this island, this small island, by the way, here in the southern provinces, is being ran. Nobody seems to care. It's just fill it up as much as possible with tourists and just let it go to shit. And that's the way I kind of feel about Phuket at the moment. And I don't know if you live here in the island already, or maybe you're a visitor to here, you're thinking about coming here. You know, what your opinion on this is. I certainly know that since the pandemic, nothing has been done in terms of getting Phuket ready for the influx of tourists. We still have no proper public transportation system. The roads are getting busier and busier, but yet as it gets busier and busier, more people seem to be buying cars and traveling in cars. There's no car park spaces, and, hotels are being built, shopping malls are being built, but yet, condos are being built. There's no parking for any of these. So anytime you go anywhere, you can't find anywhere to bring your car. So what's the point in everyone having all these cars if you're not going to have anywhere for people to put them? Of course, then you have to also think about, the emissions of these cars and the overall environment on the island. And I think things have just been deteriorating at a rapid pace. Now, Phuket are trying to get this expo in 2028. I've absolutely no idea how they're going to hoodwink the people who will eventually decide on who will host the Expo 2028. But I mean, if they were to come here and see the way things are ran on the island, they would probably run as quickly away from it as possible. It's just not being taken care of. And there's no plan for the island. But nevertheless, I don't want to also say that I'm complaining about the place. Look, I love living in Thailand and I want to see the best for an island like Phuket. I just don't want to see it go down the road it's heading to right now, because I don't think that's going to be a good place for anyone. There's an over-reliance now, it seems, on Russian tourists in Phuket, and finding any other voice other than a Russian seems to be becoming very, very difficult. And I have nothing against Russians, but, there's a kind of a cultural clash, I think, between Western and Russians as well, and that kind of seems to be seeping into Phuket. But nevertheless, I want to go into some of the things, the reasons, maybe not to visit Phuket and what those reasons would be. And also kind of along the lines, is Phuket becoming a cesspit? Is it? And I'd love to know your opinion throughout this video and this podcast and what you think about it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the cost of living in Phuket. And this can be relatively high compared to other parts of Thailand, particularly if you're living in the tourist areas such as Bang Tao, Patong, Katakaran, Rawai now, of course, as well. As one of the country's most popular destinations, Phuket's economy is heavily reliant on tourism, which drives up the prices of many goods and services here on the island. For instance, the cost of accommodation, transportation, food and other essentials can be significantly higher in Phuket than other parts of Thailand. And I'm even talking about Bangkok when I say this. Housing is particularly expensive in Phuket, especially in areas that are popular with tourists. Rent for a basic apartment or a small house can be quite high, and even basic necessities like groceries and utilities can be more expensive than other parts of the country. Additionally, dining out, shopping and entertainment can be costly, particularly in upscale areas like Patong and Kamala. While it's still possible to find affordable options in Phuket, particularly if you're willing to live outside of the main tourist areas, the cost of living is still relatively high compared to other parts of Thailand. So if you're on a tight budget, Phuket may be not be the best place for you to live. And it also points to the fact that the driving up of prices will also eventually drive out locals and Thai people from other parts of the country who want to live in Phuket. That also is part of the problem when I've discussed before about the hospitality industry and how they have a lack of jobs. Well, the problem is you'll be getting your salary, but because the cost of accommodation, the cost of food and everything is becoming so expensive on the island, just generally doing anything on the island is becoming expensive. Thais need a much higher salary now to be able to live there, and they're just not getting that, which is one of the reasons why they have such issues in the hospitality industry at the moment. Now, another reason would be it's very crowded and very, very busy now. As I've said, Phuket is one of Thailand's most popular tourist destinations, and this popularity brings with it significant amounts of traffic and crowds. The island's roads can become congested, particularly during peak tourist season, and it can take a long time to go from A to B, especially in areas like Patong, Kata, Karang, Bao Tao, where the majority of tourists tend to stay. In addition to traffic, Phuket's beaches can also be quite crowded, especially during peak tourist season. Many of the island's beaches are famous for their beauty and the variety of water activities available, so it's no surprise that they attract large numbers of people. However, this can mean that it can be challenging to find a quiet spot to relax, and you may have to contend with crowds, noise, and, of course, litter. Moreover, the island's tourist areas are often bustling with activity, with vendors, touts and other people trying to sell you things or offer you services. This can be overwhelming for some people, and it's worth noting that the hustle and bustle of Phuket may not be for everyone. Overall, if you're looking for a quiet, peaceful place to live or even visit, Phuket might not be the best choice. However, if you enjoy the energy and excitement of a busy tourist destination, then Phuket might be just what you're looking for. So I think this is very similar to many other places, but in particular Phuket, I think, is starting to become very overcrowded very, very quickly. Now, another issue that people have, and especially expats living here, is the weather here in Phuket. And Phuket is located in a tropical climate zone, which means it can be hot and humid throughout the year. Average temperatures hover around 30 degrees Celsius, and humidity levels can reach up to 90%, particularly during the rainy season. The rainy season in Phuket typically runs from May to October and is characterized by frequent rainfall and occasional tropical storms. During this time, the island can experience flash floods and landslides, which can cause significant damage to infrastructure and disrupt travel. On the other hand, the dry season, which runs from November to April, is characterized by sunny and hot weather, with temperatures sometimes reaching up to 35 degrees Celsius. While this can be great for those who love the sun and warm weather, it can be uncomfortable for some people, particularly those who are not used to the heat. It's important to note that Phuket's weather can be unpredictable, with sudden changes in weather patterns, so it's essential to be prepared for all types of weather if you plan to live there. Overall, if you enjoy hot, humid weather and don't mind occasional tropical storm, Phuket weather might be ideal for you. However, if you prefer cooler, drier weather or are sensitive to humidity, you may want to consider another destination. Another reason not to come here, another reason maybe to skip Phuket, is the limited job opportunity. So if you're an expat who wants to work here in Thailand, Phuket may not be the place for you. While Phuket's tourism industry provides numerous job opportunities, particularly in hospitality and the service sector, finding work outside of these fields can be challenging. Most jobs available in Phuket are related to the tourism industry, such as hotel staff, tour guides, restaurant workers, customer service representatives, diving and whatnot. While there are some international companies and organizations operating on the island, they typically have a limited number of job openings. Additionally, many of those positions require specialized skills and experience, making it challenging for people without these qualifications to find work. The competition for jobs in Phuket can also be intense, particularly during peak tourist season, when many businesses are looking to hire additional staff. While there may be some job opportunities for English teachers, the salaries in the teaching field and industry right now are typically lower than in other parts of Thailand. Overall, if you're looking for a wide range of job opportunities, Phuket is not the best place to live. However, if you're interested in working in the hospitality or service industry or willing to start your own business, Phuket, could be a good choice. Now, another issue that I seem to find, and a lot of people seem to tell me when they visit Phuket, is Phuket's lack of cultural diversity. Phuket is predominantly populated by ethnic Thais, and as such it can lack cultural diversity compared to other parts of Thailand or other countries. While the island has a sizable expat community, the majority of these individuals come from Western countries, which can further contribute to the lack of cultural diversity. The lack of cultural diversity in Phuket can mean that it can be challenging to find ethnic foods, cultural events, or opportunities to learn about other cultures. Additionally, the lack of diversity can lead to a lack of tolerance or understanding of other cultures, particularly those who have not had the opportunity to experience or learn about different cultures. While some cultural events do take place on the island, particularly during major events like Songkran, many of these events tend to be geared towards tourists rather than the local community. For those who value cultural diversity and want to be part of a more multicultural community, Phuket may not be the ideal place to live. However, it's worth noting that Phuket does have a rich history and culture of its own, with a unique blend of Thai, Chinese and Malay influences. Exploring the island's temples, markets and local festivals can be a great way to learn more about the unique culture and connect with the local community. Now, another issue that I've noted when I was over the last period of time of being here is corruption. Now, corruption is an issue in many parts of Thailand, including Phuket. While efforts have been made to tackle corruption in recent years, it still remains a significant problem, particularly in the construction and property sectors. One of the main issues with corruption in Phuket is the illegal occupation of public land, particularly in areas close to the beach. This has led to disputes between local residents, business owners and the authorities, with some accusing others of illegal land grabbing or using bribes to obtain land use permits. Additionally, corruption can also affect the quality of infrastructure and services in Phuket, particularly in areas where there is little oversight or regulation. This can lead to issues like poor road construction, which we've seen here many times, inadequate waste management and inadequate law enforcement, all of which can affect the quality of life for residents. Overall, corruption is a serious issue here in Phuket, and those considering living on the island should be aware of the potential risks and challenges associated with it. It's important to do your research and seek advice from reliable sources before making any major investments or decisions. And that is true of anything, but I will say that corruption over the last, I don't know even if you can call it corruption, I just call it lack of police enforcement anymore. There seems to be no police anywhere doing anything on the island. As I was sitting in my car the last day, I was looking at the number of motorbikes, people, 60-70% now, no helmets anymore. They do have face masks on, by the way. They do have those face masks, but no helmets. And the amount of cars breaking red lights, it's just so dangerous. Driving the wrong way up roads, what do they call this? Ghost riding and whatnot. I don't even know why they have law enforcement or traffic regulations here in the country, because there's nobody enforcing any of them. It's just a free-for-all. But this is also something to note for tourists coming here. Be very careful when you're driving over here in this country. It is the complete opposite of anything you have learned before. Now, another issue that needs a little bit more focus is kind of prostitution here in Phuket. Now, prostitution is a sensitive and complex issue in Phuket, as it is in many parts of Thailand. While prostitution is technically illegal in Thailand, it is widespread and tolerated to some degree, particularly in tourist areas like Phuket. There are numerous bars, clubs and massage parlours in Phuket that are known to be frequented by sex workers, many of whom are not there by choice but have been coerced or trafficked into the industry. Additionally, there are reports of underage prostitution and exploitation in the sex industry in Phuket, which is a major concern. Prostitution can have a negative social, health and economic impact on the individuals involved as well as on the wider community. It can also contribute to issues like sex trafficking, drug use and the spread of sexually transmitted infections. Where there are efforts being made to tackle prostitution in Phuket and related issues, it remains a significant problem. Those considering living here should be aware of the potential risks and challenges associated with prostitution and should take steps to protect themselves and others from exploitation or harm. And while I was writing this today and going through this in my mind of what I was going to say in this podcast, it's another issue that I think Thailand very much turns a blind eye to. And although some people will say, well, it's their choice to do it, many times it's not their choice. And it's something we need to be very mindful of, especially when you're living on an island like Phuket, and especially when people visit frequent areas like Phuket, or Patong, Patong would have a reputation of being a party town, but also, yes, a town full of prostitution and bar girls and whatnot. And it's also worth bearing in mind that a lot of these girls are not there because they want to be there. Now, another issue, and the final one on the list today, is scams in Phuket. Scams are unfortunately common in tourist areas like Phuket, and visitors and residents should be aware of the potential risks and take steps to protect yourself. One common scam in Phuket is the tuk-tuk scam, where drivers offer to take tourists on a tour of the island, but then take them to overpriced or low-quality shops and restaurants where they receive a commission. Another common scam involves those jet skis, which you've all heard about, where tourists are accused of causing damage to the jet ski and then pressured into paying exorbitant repair fees. There are also scams involving counterfeit goods, such as fake designer products or low-quality gemstones. Visitors should be cautious when shopping and avoid buying from unlicensed or untrustworthy vendors. Finally, there are scams involving accommodation and travel, such as fake hotel bookings or rigged taxi meters. It's important to book accommodation through reputable sources and to use official taxi services where possible. Overall, it's important to be vigilant and to exercise common sense when dealing with unfamiliar situations in Phuket. Be cautious of offers that seem too good to be true, and seek advice from trusted sources when in doubt. Now, that is probably the best advice I could ever give you. And I'll say it once more. Be cautious of offers that seem too good to be true. No better advice I can give you than that for when you travel somewhere or in life. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. But that is kind of my thoughts on Phuket at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually enjoy living in Phuket. But I want it to be better, and I want things to get better in the island. I think all the issues that I've discussed in today's show could be easily rectified if people in authority had the will to do it, and also the encouragement. And it would be a phenomenal thing to see Phuket become a sustainable island. At the moment, the only thing that seems to be happening is to fill it with as many tourists as possible. It's as if nothing else matters on the island other than to pack it full of tourists, but yet we have no roads to take them anywhere, no proper transportation system, the beaches are dirty, we don't have, the hotels that are being built, they're not being built, properly. There's no environmental impact assessments being done and proper planning of the island. No green spaces being created. Instead, it's build. But let's forget about having areas for people to go for a walk or, relax in and these kind of things. And I think Phuket really needs a proper leadership to kind of give it itself a 20-year plan of what it really wants to be. And I really believe Phuket can do this. And I really believe the Thai people, if they put their mind to it, avoid some of the corruption that goes on and really think to themselves, let's make Phuket the best it can be. It can be an amazing place to live. But right now, I don't believe it is even close to that. But I do believe it has potential. But again, that's it for today. Now, before I go, if there's anything in this show that you'd like to comment about, do so down in the comment section, because I love reading your comments and I love to hear what you guys have to say. I'd love your opinion on things. If you live in Phuket, what do you think about Phuket at the moment? Is it a place you enjoy still? Are you starting to think, it's getting a bit too busy for me? Are some of the points I brought up valid, or do you think they're not valid? And for tourists who come here, who, have been here and come on holidays, what is the lure of Phuket for you? Why do you come here? I'd love to see those comments down below in that comment section as always. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to hit a like, subscribe or follow depending on where you're watching from. And if you like it on the old podcast player, link down below. Must be 20 plus podcast players available. Anyway, thanks again and we'll speak to you tomorrow.